Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the Nisga'a Valley Health Authority has introduced a new outreach device. Mark Carney and Donald Trump had their first and highly anticipated meeting, and Surrey parents and teachers are protesting education cuts in the city.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Basslet, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. The Nisga'a Valley Health Authority has added a new First in Canada outreach device to their roster. The NVHA recently announced the Low Barrier Mobile Outreach Program to provide urgent health supports to vulnerable and marginalized populations in Terrace and the surrounding area. The health authority said that in response to the mental health and drug crisis, the service aims to urgently provide low-barrier mobile outreach services and improve health by offering safe and accessible care wherever people are. The specialized van will have a physician, nurse, social worker, and/or outreach worker on board and will provide person-centered care. It will be at shelters, transition homes, gathering circles, and even encampments. Services provided will include primary care, wound care, sexual and reproductive health services, and addictions care, as well as assistance for detox and treatment referrals and connections with community services. The Terrace RCMP recently announced that members of their department are going to be stepping up to show their support for the BC Special Olympics. Police officers will be joining Special Olympics athletes and other community members for the Law Enforcement Torch Run for SOBC event. The event will be taking place next month on June 7th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and will begin at the RCMP detachment's parking lot before leading into a 5-kilometer walk/run on the Millennium Trail and ending off with a barbecue and prizes being handed out. In the middle of a tense trade war, Prime Minister Mark Carney had his first highly anticipated meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. The public tone was friendly enough as the two leaders complimented each other, but when it came to sovereignty, the Prime Minister drew the line. CTV's Rob Buffum has that story.
It was a high-stakes meeting at the White House that started with smiles and matching fist pumps, followed by mutual flattery.
We were watching it with interest, and I think Canada chose a very talented person, a very good person.
Thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president.
Quickly turning to the states annexing Canada.
I do feel it's much better for Canada, but we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever.
Trump pushed the idea again.
But never say never. Never say never.
What? Never, mouths Carney for the cameras. Trump said he's not lifting his tariffs on Canada. At one point, the Prime Minister pushing back on the USMCA trade deal.
Some things about it are going to have to change. And part of the way you've conducted these tariffs has taken advantage of existing aspects of USMCA.
Trump reiterated his goal of ending reliance on Canada's auto sector, but notably, forestry didn't come up.
Very disappointed to hear or to not hear the issue of softwood lumber raised.
The meeting, a tightrope of diplomacy, getting good marks from BC's Tariffs Committee.
Quite frankly, the Prime Minister did a very good job of walking a very fine line.
Washington State's Lieutenant Governor visiting the BC Legislature Tuesday echoed Carney's message about Canada not becoming the 51st state.
No attempt to one-up the Prime Minister. It's never, 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 never going to happen.
After the meeting, Carney expressed optimism about trade relations and tariffs getting dropped.
Not trying to suggest at any respect that we can have one meeting and everything's changed, but now we are engaged and very fully engaged.
And Trump continued his compliments for Carney.
We had a great meeting today, actually, with the new Prime Minister, who's a terrific guy.
The two leaders will meet again at the G7 in Alberta next month.
Coming up next, Vancouver's downtown east side recently got very violent. Welcome back. Firefighters spent nearly half a day trying to put out burning logs at a business near Williams Lake. Flames charred everything in its wake, but as CTV's Craig Krause reports, The rapid response prevented the entire log home construction site from being destroyed.
Crew trying to get this fire put up.
A wildfire ripping through a log cabin business near Williams Lake, leaving City Councillor Scott Nelson watching on as crews rushed to the scene.
Probably 50 to 100 feet high, probably 600 or 700 feet long. It was just right beside the highway. It was intense. It was hot.
And there was wind, a recipe for disaster.
We were probably 1,500 feet away from the fire, and you could feel the heat that far away. That's how hot it was.
You must have been nervous to get near it.
Oh yeah, no. I give the first responders great credit because there's 3 or 4 fire departments that hit it very quickly.
Minutes before midnight on Monday, after nearly a 12-hour battle, the fire had been defeated by the team of mostly volunteer firefighters.
The firefighters did an amazing job containing it to that one pile.
One pile gone, and it could have been much worse for Pioneer Log Homes. The company taking to social media Tuesday, thanking the crews for their help and explaining how staff pitched in throughout the night, moving nearby logs and monitoring the yard to ensure the fire did not reignite. As for the cause,
we don't know what caused the fire. There's investigators that were on scene yesterday that were looking into it.
BC Wildfire Service telling CTV News it's believed to be human-caused. This comes as a Category 2 and 3 prohibitions are coming into effect Wednesday in the Cariboo region.
That includes binary exploding targets, fireworks, burn barrels or burn cages, controlled air incinerators, air curtain burners, as well as carbonizers.
And with camping season arriving, there is one exception. For now.
And you can still have a campfire. It just can't exceed 0.5 meter high in height and 0.5 meter in width.
BC Wildfire Service is monitoring the landscape and says the region is experiencing significant drought conditions. Crews are urging everyone in the area to stay vigilant as a warm weather arrives. Craig Crow, CTV News, Vancouver.
Vancouver police say the public has a right to be concerned after what they called a very violent 24 hours on the downtown east side. One person is dead, another has serious stab wounds, and 3 more people were injured in several violent attacks. CTV's Shannon Patterson has more.
At 8:45 on Monday night, Vancouver police officers out on patrol were flagged down by a witness about a stabbing near Hastings and Carroll Streets.
Our officers located the victim, he's a 48-year-old man, on the sidewalk in front of the West Hotel, which is in the 400 block of Carroll Street. Our officers, as well as firefighters, attempted first aid on the victim. He was taken to hospital by paramedics, where he was then pronounced dead.
At 10 p.m., police were called to Hawks and East Georgia Street for a shooting.
Our responding officers located a 55-year-old victim who was taken to hospital with serious injuries.
There were 3 other violent attacks on the downtown east side overnight. In all 5 cases, it's believed the suspect and victim knew each other and are associated to criminal gangs.
The public has every right to be concerned. This is a very dangerous neighborhood. We've said that time and time again, and that is why we initiated Task Force Barrage.
Task Force Barrage is a focused effort by the VPD to crack down on weapons and criminal activity on the downtown east side.
Files that I mentioned today just go to show why we need our officers in that area. Things have been going well for Barrage. Granted, yes, there was a flare-up in the last 24 hours, and we are looking for links to see if they're all connected.
Police say violent crime in the neighborhood has gone down 17% and robberies are down 33%.
Our work here isn't over, and we're continuing to be out there. But absolutely, it is very concerning what is going on now. It's very concerning what happened in the last 24 hours.
The suspects in the deadly stabbing and the shooting are still at large. Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.
A group of parents and teachers in Surrey launched a joint campaign in the wake of more cuts to education services in the city. The campaign is advocating for more funding from the province to support the largest school district in BC. CTV's Yasmin Gandam reports.
This is a growing crisis in our public education system.
It's called Surrey Students Deserve Better.
You know what the kids need, but you can't give them what they need.
A campaign to encourage people to petition MLAs to increase provincial funding to Surrey schools.
Funding for education has not kept pace with inflation, population growth, and the rising needs of students.
According to the Surrey Teachers Association, $3.8 billion is needed for the district to keep up with student supports. The Education Ministry tells CTV News the province has provided more than $1 billion to the district, more than any other in the province.
Tall people generally have bigger shoes. And so Surrey is the largest school district. Of course, we receive more funding, but it is the ministry's own formula, and it's not adequate.
Whitmore is also a parent witnessing the challenges firsthand.
I've watched a child who I love deeply struggle because the support she needs simply aren't there.
The group also hopes the district refocuses its spending supporting students, not management.
At a time when classrooms are overcrowded and supports are vanishing, the district is expanding their administration teams.
Well, we're a growing district, of course, and I'm very proud of the fact that we have one of the lowest percentages of our budget that is allocated to administration or overhead.
It comes as the district announced it was cutting about 50 education assistant positions due to a $16 million budget deficit. Surrey DPAC has organized a rally for next Saturday and plans to go to Victoria at the end of the month to fight for more money. Yasmin Gantam, CTV News, Surrey.
And now we take a look at both your nightly and weekly weather forecast. On the north coast, the forecast for tonight expects to see showers and a low of 6 degrees, with the upcoming week consisting of mainly clouds and rain, with possibly a little sun at the end, as their high shifts between 10 and 14 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitivet area, they should similarly get a chance of showers, but with a low of 3 degrees tonight, as their forecast for the rest of the week is also being mostly cloud and rain-filled, with some possible sun and a high moving from 12 to 18 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, their night also expects a chance of showers, although with a low at -1 degree, and the rest of their week will be pretty much all mixed sun and cloud days, with the high bouncing between 12 and 16 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. Highway 16 has bridge maintenance, utility work, road sweeping, and ditching. Highway 37 has frost heaves, road sweeping, and bridge construction. Highway 37A is dealing with falling rocks between west of Biziadin and east of Stewart, and the Telegraph Creek Road has muddy sections. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come is a look at reaction to Alberta's Premier comments on separation. Welcome back. There is anger over the penalty for a veteran Vancouver police officer who sexually harassed multiple women. Kieran McConnell gets to keep his job after a public hearing into his misconduct. Now female officers are speaking out, saying in any other industry, his type of behavior would get him fired. CTV's Ben Bilger has the story.
Kieran McConnell, who joined the Vancouver Police in 1988, has held the rank of sergeant since 2004. Currently suspended, when he's reinstated, it will be at the demoted rank of constable. McConnell has admitted to multiple instances of inappropriate sexual conduct towards 2 female colleagues and 3 students he taught in criminology classes at various BC post-secondary schools. In its disciplinary decision, the OPCC said the admitted misconduct has a clear complexion of grooming and suggests Sergeant McConnell was either oblivious to social boundaries or contemptuous of them. Over a period of 7 years, McConnell sent unsolicited sexually charged messages to the complainants. In one case, he attempted to kiss a female student after climbing into a taxi she had called for herself. In addition to the demotion, McConnell will be suspended without pay for 20 days, not be eligible for promotion back to sergeant for a minimum of 12 months, and he's prohibited from applying to become a staff sergeant for 3 years. He must also attend counseling and take training on proper workplace boundaries with women.
This is not going to change the behavior of those that are participating in that behavior within the culture of policing.
Advocates for harassment victims within policing say he should have been fired.
He's going to get to go back to work with the same people who allowed this to happen in the first place. The place where he felt comfortable to display this kind of behavior for years without fear of anything happening to him, without fear of losing his job.
The decision also recommends Vancouver Police mandate standalone sexual harassment training for all staff. The VPD says a policy review is already underway. It says it will reinstate McConnell under the terms laid out by the OPCC. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
In Alberta, backlash is growing over the Premier's suggestion that a separation referendum could be on the table. First Nations leaders say Alberta doesn't have the power to separate lands protected by treaties that predate the province. CTV's Tim Bruck explains.
Just hours after Alberta's treaty chiefs held an emergency meeting, they had a united message for a premier flirting with the idea of separation.
We're not going anywhere. And if you feel that you have problems with First Nations, you could leave.
Danielle Smith's talk of a potential Alberta separation referendum in 2026 has Indigenous leaders furious. Some have even threatened to stop any energy development and exploration on their lands until their voices are heard.
This is treaty country, and any talk of separation is really insanity.
The reality is, the chief's concerns will need to be heard in any separation conversation. That's because the entire province is made up of treaty territory or national parks.
The treaties are binding legal promises between the Crown and Indigenous peoples. So in order to get the consent of Indigenous peoples, they would have to agree to walk away from that.
And that's a conversation that can't happen until the House of Commons has a say, and at least 2/3 of Canadian provinces representing at least half of the population would need to be on board.
Those next steps probably involve some kind of dramatic constitutional change, either Alberta becoming a fully separate country or some kind of new form of association.
Not to mention court challenges over our share of the national debt and new trade relationships. Despite the challenges, the Premier won't speculate on the feasibility of the entire venture.
I don't have answers to those questions because until we see an actual active question and an active petition campaign, it really is just hypothetical.
Tim Bruck, CTV News, Calgary.
As the federal NDP regroups and tries to rebuild, Don Davies of Vancouver Kingsway has been chosen as the party's interim leader. So who is he and why was he chosen as the temporary captain? Sinjin Alexander has a look.
The party's fortunes were depleted, but Don Davies has now won 6 times in Vancouver Kingsway. Though the Liberal candidate came very close to snapping that streak, the man first elected in 2008 finds himself temporarily NDP captain.
Here he is now, the interim leader in a very difficult situation, and I think he's going to use a lot. It's going to demand a lot of his talents to get the ball rolling and to regroup.
Davies has lived in BC for 3 decades, but was born in Edmonton. He has a Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science, as well as Bachelor's of Laws. He worked at the Legislative Assembly in Alberta and for the Teamsters.
Well, what I'm for is
As an MP, he has served as critic for safety, immigration, and finance. He's described as a politician who waves the party banner without attracting a lot of attention.
I think he is a good soldier, the kind of MP who shows up, who does the work necessary in the constituency. So he is well regarded in his own riding.
Davies is one of only 7 NDP candidates who won re-election. That means he's heading a party without official status.
There's been a lot of chatter about trying to get this done by the end of the year. So that means some campaigns will start coming out of the woodwork fairly early.
It would be complicated if he were to choose to run, so I would take this as an indication perhaps that he has no great designs on the leadership of his own.
And that may be why he was chosen, a much-needed, steady-handed captain for a political team in need of a rebuild. Sinjin Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
And now we turn our attention to how the stock markets are looking as of today compared to yesterday. The Canadian dollar is down 7/100ths of a cent. The price of gold is down $30.90. Oil is down $1.02. Natural gas is up 16 cents. Aluminum is up $1. In Toronto, the TSX is up 186.46 points. The Venture Index is up 1.71. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 284.97 and Nasdaq is up 48.50. Still ahead, paying to upgrade seats on an airplane can be quite costly, but what if it's not available? Welcome back. When booking a flight, you usually get the base fare, and if you want to choose a seat, extra legroom, or upgrade to business class, it costs more. But what happens if you pay for an upgrade then find it's unavailable? CTV's Pat Ford has more.
When you board the plane, you're hoping you get what you're paid for, right?
Al Weisgerber of Port Dover and his wife flew to Barbados earlier this year to celebrate their 45th wedding anniversary. They booked a flight with WestJet, but when they got to the airport, they were surprised to be boarding a smaller Swoop airplane.
I turned around, I walked up, and I went to the window, and there it was right across it, Swoop. It says, owned and operated by WestJet Airlines.
Weisgerber bought 2 tickets for just over $1,700, but paid a premium seating upgrade of $2,100 for a total of just over $3,800. But when they boarded the plane, there were no premium seats.
It was not enjoyable to flight down because we had paid that. Actually, it was like $1,050 going and $1,050 coming back for the premium seats, but it was just an ordinary plane. It was terrible.
When he got home, he contacted WestJet to ask for a refund for the premium seats they didn't use, and he was surprised at the response he received.
$100 each. And I emailed her back and I said, she says, that's the best we can do for you.
We are seeing a lot of airline misconduct when it comes to not refunding seat selection fees.
An air passenger rights group says airlines should automatically refund passengers when they don't get the seats they paid for without making them jump through hoops to be compensated.
The ultimate principle here is very simple. You don't have to pay for a service that you didn't receive.
When CTV News reached out to WestJet, a spokesperson said, "We are sincerely sorry WestJet did not live up to his expectations. Our support team has been in touch to determine a resolution." In the end, WestJet gave Weisgerber a $1,000 refund in the form of a credit, which was good enough for him.
Whatever we book, there's an automatic $1,000 sitting there for us, which was great. Thanks, CTV. We are really happy that you got our $1,000 back for us. We really appreciate it with helping us.
A 39-year-old man faces multiple charges after North Surrey police say a suspect threatened people with an axe. Surrey police say officers were called Monday about a man who was allegedly breaking a trailer's windows with an axe and threatening both residents. Police say when officers arrived, the suspect went into a house on the same property. The Lower Mainland's emergency response team was called, and police say the suspect and another resident got out of the house eventually and were taken into custody. That's all our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching.